starting to be the one to talk today because Hugo's usually the one talking. I'm going through with what we have been dealing with. There's been so much abuse and so much corruption. Nobody knows our management of our child's care, which has led to her to drown. She needed a chest tube. Both her lungs ended up drowning anyways because they didn't understand her care plan, things like that. Then they go and they do a procedure without our parental consent. They've been doing things to our child. We've had her in our care pretty much every day. I think we've had once gone to Jasper overnight and then once to Fort Mac for a Christmas party. Other than that, in 15 years, I've never had a holiday anywhere or anything, been at home taking care of my child's needs other than my cancer or my brain bleed and stuff. Anyways, to make a long story short, to tell you how corrupt it is when somebody starts realizing what's happening and you actually have a worker who stands by your side, they decide, well, we're going to take that worker off the file now. Every time we have a worker that starts seeing what's happening and the corruption of it, they start taking that person off the file. We went to court on Friday, and it was said by the judge, because we had expressed that the hospital is not capable to take care of our child, that it would be putting her life at serious risk due to the viruses that flow through the hospital alone, immune compromised. We are being ignored by the main supervisor of the best interest of our child's life. They're willing to put her there instead of putting her in her home, having us supervised and seeing how everything goes, where she has the care that she's had for 15 years, basically taking away her medical care. They've taken away her rights of education online of what we fought for. They've taken away her voice. They have not supported her communication. They have not let her come home, denying her rights, even though she clearly has been stating she wants to come home, nearly 16 years old, making her cry over this even. Now, they're still not willing to comply with what even the court had said on the best interest of the safety of this child's life, to work with us and ensure this meeting happens, ensure our child comes here, to ensure her safety and make up a safety plan that is going to work for this child. Now, this is serious, guys, because my child's life, our child's life, is serious at risk right now, and I'm seriously worried that my child will die under the care of due to negligence. And the due process is allowing the negligence to fall under the court system's nose.
And if she died from viruses, they're going to say she died from viruses and wash their hands from it.
Exactly, knowing they're putting her at risk of harm. In this case scenario, putting her at serious risk. They have denied her father, listen to this, guys, they denied her father access to be even near her right now because we spoke up on the fact that an RN, our daughter had a history of pneumatosis, which is like Rice Krispies of air in your intestines and stuff, and it can cause ruptures, which she's had an emergency surgery for a small rupture bowel before. So, history of pneumatosis intestinal. So then, we've got risks. We fought this so long. So we have risks for her stomach, which is why we have a GJ. In the GJ, we put it into a small intestine. If you put too much into the small intestine, you can stretch the small intestine and make it uncomfortable, or you can actually rupture the small intestine. So when RN at their facility decided to shove a huge bolus, about 60 mils of bolus, plus all her medications, a handful of medications, one after another into her intestines. And then she walks out of the room, and her dad, at the end, anyways, I'll tell you why. Her dad was asking, is everything okay? And I was like, yeah, but I didn't want to tell him there because I knew he would be really upset with this whole situation. So he said, oh, are you sure? And then he told me on the way out, well, one of the nurses said that her face is red. And she says, oh, she always does that all the time. No, she doesn't. She does that when something happens. So anyways, eventually we got home when I knew we were away from the facility, explained to him what happened, and which explains the redness from stressing out her and small intestines, putting her at risk, even though it's in her care plan right on her bedside, right beside her by her bedside. So this RN made the choice to shove all this in under her license, ignoring our daughter's medical care plan.
She said she has to. She was on the rush.
She said she had to because she had to rush for mom's visit and because she was busy with other people. So I want to know, all the RNs out there, are you guys willing to put your license at risk because you got to rush and because somebody has a visit? And the person says, oh, no worries, I'm not, don't rush.
And just to clarify, Lisa, you can clarify what's happened. I called them, confront them about that. They hung up on me. Then I went there. To talk to them. I've been refused. And after that, the shit show is coming. I've been blocked to go there. I have no access between the two doors. I have no access. I've been blocked to go on the property. They are intimidated. And today I went wait for Lisa across the road. I walk her to the door because the parking lot is not very well maintained, very slippery. I walk her to the door and I leave. The worker there have received few notification. I was right there across the road. Come on, stop to be a little child.
Yeah, so anyways, guys, so from there on, there's been a few workers who have seen what we've been saying. The abuse, the mental abuse, the damages to our child, the damages to our family, and people are seeing this. And as people see this, they get taken off our file, and get shifted and moved. And I don't know how many people in 9 months as this has been happening to as soon as they start seeing everything, or when it starts coming close to a serious situation, they will change our file. That's another thing they like to do, because once they change our file, then it's, oh, this isn't, that was yesterday. So then they can sweep it under the carpet. So now at this point, they're still willing to let my child be at risk and even die. And lie to the judge, even the courts. Again, lie to them. We're sitting there, Wednesday's coming up, 29th's coming up, guys. She's got to be out of that facility and in a new placement. And they want to put her where there is pneumonia, influenza, and RSV flying crazy in that facility right now. And she's hugely immune compromised. Now, don't tell me this is a government corruption that isn't setting you up to say, we just want your child to die so you can shut the F up. Take care of Maya. See how the parents are played against each other. See what happens when a family speaks up against the corruptions and what they do. And it's funny because I worked for Alberta Health Services. And it's funny because Maya's mom was a nurse, Polish as well. My background has Polish and Ukrainian, Scottish, Irish, and Persian, you name it. But take care of Maya, guys. It's not just in my country or my province or my city. This is happening in every country. The government just takes vulnerability over people's lives and just supports the pharmaceuticals. What's happening with the pharmaceuticals as we're supporting them? I'd like everybody to come to Edmonton downtown and go take a look and tell me that your brothers and sisters and cousins and everybody are going to be safe after an opioid issue because they got shoved in the hospital and opioids shoved in their faces. Time and time again, how many people are taking medications you really don't need, that they convince you need? There's a lot of naturopaths out there. What I was taught is that, science, our earth has given us what we need to survive. And here we're just brutalizing it. And the corruption, even to put a child's life at risk, to let this child even have the possibility to die. And you've nearly killed my child already once by drowning both her lungs to a point she needed a chest tube in her right lung because you told me, a pulmonologist specialist told me, I am sorry, who has my SMA type 1 child. I'm sorry, we didn't know that you coughed your child. I'm sorry, we didn't know you did chest physio. I'm sorry, I didn't know you suctioned her. She can't swallow. She's trach vented. She's SMA type 1. You took her without the knowledge and facts of what is in the best interest of her life, causing risk and harm. Bruised her chest from the center of her chest all the way up her left shoulder, which tells us the exact mark is from a seatbelt. Not knowing we're transferring a floppy-toned child even. Never transferred her before in their lives. Never tried to even work with us. And now they're willing to cause death to my child, to literally put it to that point so that they can put it in the file, wipe it under the courts, and say, oh, the child died from pneumonia. The child died from RSV. But knowing that this is a huge, and especially in January, February, especially at the highest times of the influenzas and RSVs. This hospital has been wanting me to give up for 15 years. 15 years. They told us that the numbers are too low. I want to know why the numbers are too low, because they keep telling them to hold them in their arms and let them die. There is no other options. And they're uneducating families of SMA. Since almost 16 years of what I've known SMA about, the education. I'm not the only family. This is happening worldwide. The disgust worldwide is horrible. The treatment to many medical families is extremely unnerving. And now they're trying to ignore me. And Hugo, as we're saying, we didn't reply Friday because they asked for a meeting. So now they're trying to drag it, because what they're going to do is drag my file to try to switch my file over again so they can sweep that part under the carpet. My daughter will be in hospital. She dies. Instead of actually putting forward the safety plan for the best interest of her life. Anyways, Hugo wants to take over.
Just for a few minutes. I have to begin CPR myself. Twice. In that building. Then what are we going to do for now? Plus pushing my wife to the edge at multiple occasions. It's what they do for about 9 months now. Lisa get that apartment a month ago. We've been living in the RV with no running water. And they bring her to the office. Lisa was requesting many times to get help to get there. Never happened. And when that happened, get that place here inside few days. Why has been done that way? Aggravation of mental health against Lisa. Me, doesn't really affect me too much. Can deal with it. I have to sacrifice some visit with both my girl to make sure everything has been done safe. We are not feeling safe to go see our children on our own anymore due to the aggravation. Not really from the chemo worker, but from social services and those mid-school institutions. They use intimidation. They say we put them nervous. All the time to our caregiver who worked with NF for many years, who is still taking care of her right now inside the facility, have informed us to they shove the medication in the NS tube on a regular basis that way. It's not because they are nervous. Because it happened only 1 or twice, maybe 3 times. The visit was at 8 o'clock in the morning when it's time for the medication. And let's be clear, they use intimidation, they use my temper to restrict my access there. But that it's not the case. Every time I go, I cut them on some kind of mid-school error. And the time when it turned very bad, the first time we have some restriction, is the responsible of the file from Sherwood Park Social Services, who have called us on the middle of the visit. And she's the one who's doing the schedule with another lady. Then that phone call was done on one purpose, aggravation. And I'm going to give the phone back to Lisa if she has something to finish up. And yeah, it's very serious, guys.
Anyways, so what I am trying to express at this point, how did she aspirate? I'm going to express this part. The beginning, she aspirated. How did she even end up with an injury in her chest in transportation? Another thing, they transport her for her treatment. Apparently, when they took our daughter, they took her with, there's a choice. We have a bunch of suction machines that were under the bed. She didn't even look to see the corner. External or charge. External means you got to plug it into the wall. So she grabbed an external machine instead of a portable suction machine. To transfer.
Here is a little bit dirty, but we
Yeah.
can see that one is do not work anymore. She's not been cleaned for a long time. This one here, it's a battery operated machine.
I don't know if I have it in place here.
You have 3 light here.
Yep.
And on the not battery operated one, you have only 2 of those lights. And that is the difference.
So yeah, and it sometimes it'll say external plug-in. So they took an external plug-in machine to transfer my daughter portably without a portable suction machine, and she's respiratory. So that puts her life at risk right there. They went and did a procedure.
12 weeks for them to figure that out.
Yeah, they went and did a procedure saying, oh, she's fluctuating and blah, 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 and she's not holding her saturations. But I've got a photo of what she looked like when I walked in with her trach hanging, her trachea turning to the left. So you tell me if your trachea is like, turned, you're going to get a hole and a leak. You're not going to get full support. So I got a photo of that. She's dusky, discolored, sweating. Anyways, it's a constant battle. It's not just my daughter. This happens continuously. My son, bring him in. I said, I believe my son is sick. I've had training. I worked in long-term care. I got told hypochondriac, paranoid. Well, my son passed away Father's Day about 13 years ago from a viral pneumonia that attacked his heart, but I was a hypochondriac. I go into Grey Nuns, have a brain bleed. Oh, tell me stop crying, stop screaming. Oh, it's only a simple migraine. Go have a CT. Turns out I have a brain bleed. So the whole way I'm questioning my own sanity to the next hospital they're transferring me to. I'm crazy. I can't tolerate pain. Why am I such a big baby? Blah, blah, blah. Are they going to go lock me up? Am I really having a brain bleed? You don't know how many times or how many months I've asked Hugo after my brain bleed, almost daily, did I really have a brain bleed? Did it really happen to me? I don't understand. Am I crazy? I mentally went through a horrible transition of breakdown due to what has happened to me medically, happened to my family medically, and it doesn't stop. And now the abuse is being pushed even more to the point the one worker who's recognized it, willing to work with us and pushing it forward, saying this isn't right, they've actually took off my file now, as of today. And it keeps happening as some workers recognize it. They will keep the nasty ones on so you can actually see the sore thumbs that stand out. It's disgusting, and this is supposed to be the best interest of my child and their safety, and this is allowed by the due process to push this under the nose past the judge, putting my daughter's life at risk, causing more mental damages to my family, more harm to my family, more harm to my child. And then turn around and say I'm nasty. I yell and I'm crazy. Right now, as we speak, they have a choice to make. We've been setting up her bed, her needs. We've been trying to do the best we can with what we have left from when we lost the house. I'm trying to show her bed here. So it's all right here. We're starting to set it up. I don't have a mattress anymore for it. There's just things we need to do, and we should have gotten. And they've had from June to work on something in the best interest of my child. June, they've known. And they decide last minute they're going to put my child's life at risk willingly. And they're going to sweep it under the carpet if anything happens. So anything from here on medically, and it keeps happening. So they just keep allowing it to be swept under the carpet over and over and over. Look at Lisa, Vicky, Victorious Lohan on my Facebook and see what I publicly wrote in emails to them. I'm not afraid to make those statements because they're facts. And unfortunately, the person that should be investigated is the one calling the shots on my daughter's life. And we've asked since July to speak with her director, and we keep being denied. We've asked for a medical lawyer for our child in the best interest so that the courts can understand more. Denied. We've gone to the Edmonton police. They've told us to get a lawyer when we try to report criminal activity of charges of bodily harm to a minor and negligence of medical care. We're told to get a lawyer instead of being able to file a report. Can you see how corrupt our system is now? Look at the big pile of it. And then you want to sit there and understand why officers are, sorry, I don't mean to be like this, but are assholes out there.
What?
Get tired.
What? Do you say the truth?
No, I do, because you know what? The way they treat people with mental disabilities or mental health issues is disgusting. And yes, they go through a lot. I get it. But that's because they have been put through improper training and have made the choice to never say, look, our training sucks in this area. Let's put somebody, oh, and then how about let's call the access helpline. Ma'am, calm down. I'm talking to them just as I'm talking to you guys. I have complex PTSD, anxiety, and I think it's DMM depression or MDD depression, something any like that. Anyways, so ma'am, they tell me right as I'm talking to you guys right now, calm down. I don't understand what you're saying. You're yelling, ma'am. Okay, but I called you because I have mental health issues that I need help with. And you're supposed to be the operator on the other line that I'm supposed to be able to get help with and have access and support from. I'm calling the abuse card, but I have mental health issues and that's what you're dealing with, honey. Where's your training? I have to be on your level in order to get help. So the guy who has no clue what's happening because he's stuck in Alice in Wonderland's life on a whole different level with Michael Jackson, and God's opening the gates. So, we've got these people wandering around the streets aimlessly without supervision, proper centers, proper care.
And we have Randy, who I met a couple of weeks ago in the bus. I gave $10.
Yeah.
Nice older man, 1 foot missing, well, pushing his wheelchair around.
Old veteran.
I don't know if he's a veteran or not, but I helped him out in the bus today. I asked him where is his partner. He used to have a guy who helped him all the time. He said, I prefer to be by myself because I get in trouble. Guy have a foot missing, walking in the snow, pushing his wheelchair, snow for the sidewalk full of snow. He fall one, I help him out, put him in the bus 9. And I told him, I do that bus every day so far. Well, now they're going to switch in around, and I'm not going to be able to go there. But I'm going to try to catch Randy and have a little video before the end of the week so he can tell us our story right online.
So anyways, so we've got people who are frostbite, nobody is being supported because the paperwork, it gets shifted through the process. Looks good, but we keep being delayed in the process. 8 months waiting for housing. Sit there, put my application in. I finally get an email, 3-4 months later saying that they're changing their policies or something. So it's changing the whole application. I have to redo the application. So I tell them I redid the application, but nothing's happening. I don't know what's happening. I need somebody to come with me, figure out what's happening. Finally, when somebody agrees to come with me almost 8 months later, get there to the office, they up my points. I almost fell, slid on a buckle. They up my points that Friday. I put in an application. I applied for locations or whatever. So then by that Monday, I had a place. 8 months. My family and I have been waiting. 8 months or 9 months. I've been asking for therapy with me and my youngest because there's been a lot of mental damages, a lot of things they make my child believe that are not true. They play your family very badly against each other. By the way, 8 months, I never got any therapy or time to work with me and my younger child's relationship in 9 months. Yet everybody is paying taxpayer dollars for these services for families to have support and help with. 9 months they've been dragging my file. 8 months they drag us to, I guess this apartment was available for months and months. She said it was open for the longest time and nobody was applying to take it. So months I sat without a home in a trailer with Hugo carrying water for us, washing with boiled water, under my health conditions, them knowing it, acknowledging my health conditions, knowing that we are the best interest of our child's lifeline. But through the corruption, we keep getting pushed and pushed and pushed to a point that mothers like Mia's mom do go over the edge to write a letter just to be heard. How many more suicides are we going to have in this world to be heard? How many more are going to be pushed to the edge? Because I've already been in hospital twice for suicide issues. 15 years. Hugo and I have never laid a hand on each other. We've never hurt each other. We've always gotten along. The pressures are unbelievable. Call him at 10:30 in the morning when I've been there from 8 in the morning saying what's wrong with my child. I just show up. My child's heart rate's 145. Face is beet red. She's bawling her eyeballs out. She was about 2 years old. Bawling her eyes out. I said, something's wrong with my child. No, nothing's wrong with your child. She gets up. Next thing I know, I've got a bunch of nurses behind me telling me I'm crazy. I need help. I need to go down for therapy, blah, blah, blah. I said, something's wrong. I think I can feel heat from her leg. I think her leg is broken. I'm crazy. So they call her dad 10:30. Shows up around 11. Everybody's focusing on my mental health. I'm trying to say, look, something's wrong with my child. Heart rate 145. They're saying that, oh, she's upsetting her child. Throughout the whole process, she's upsetting the child. She's upsetting the child. She's upsetting the child. 7 o'clock p.m. comes around. And finally, this nurse comes in and I said to this nurse, look, and I showed her everything while everybody else is disputing my mentality outside. So the nurse says, you know what? I believe you. Go home. I will call the doctor and I'll have them look at her and I'll let you know how things go. So Hugo and I get into an argument. I get out of the vehicle. It takes me 2.5 hours to walk home. Show up there, go to the computer, 10:24, get a phone call from the doctor. She says, how do you know it was fractured? How did you know she had a broken leg? I said, I didn't. I just felt heat from her leg. My daughter's crying, heart rate's 145. 14 hours from my awareness, my daughter had a buckle fracture in her right leg, 2 split fractures above her knee. Sat there 14 hours. Could have had an infection in that 14 hours caused by the hospital themselves. We'll talk about issues of when they lost an HIV needle in PICU. I sat there sitting beside my daughter. All of a sudden I see everybody kind of getting in a kerfuffle and worried. Are you sure? Are you sure? And then some of the charge nurse comes up. Are you sure that child is HIV positive? Not my daughter, the other one. Yeah, I'm sure this one's HIV positive. Right here's the chart, blah, blah, blah. Are you sure you misplaced the needle? Blah, blah, blah. And right away I knew what was going on. Worked in Alberta Health Services long enough. I worked in long-term care long enough to understand what was happening. So I said to Hugo that day, I said, 90 days from now, mark it on the chart. They're going to come up and need blood work from her.
Because at the time is what it was.
Yeah, at the time it's what it was. Sure enough, 90 days later to the exact date, I had blood work from my pregnancy that I brought forward. And I said, she has anything, you guys are going to be having something to explain. They came up and said that an RT that day splashed themselves in the eye and they had to do testing.
With secretion.
With secretion, with the circuit, but it's water that comes from the circuit anyway. And I said, well, if you guys are doing testing, I said, we'd have to wait about 90 days, wouldn't we, from the day that we were in PICU when you guys lost the HIV needle. Right away, their face went white and they went, how did you know about that? I was sitting right there when it happened. By the way, there's no curtains, no walls.
And what about it was the night of the election of the President Obama in 2008 when she was coming back from PICU, go back in the ice room. We transport her from PICU. We settle her in the ice room. There are 2 RT and the nurse start talking about their vacation. Start realizing my daughter was turning blue and behind her BiPAP mask. I yell, hey, we need to do something. We need to hurry up. I start untying the mask in her face myself. They start banging her. She came back. Put the mask back on. They are ready to leave again. I mentioned she's turning blue again. And they are not rushing more than that. Fix her again. Oh, I don't understand. She was fine. She did it a 3rd time. I started walking around. The oxygen line was on the ground. Not even plugged. The pressure was leaking. Plus she was just coming out of PICU. She was needed oxygen. And July 2008, around July 2008, I believe, and Lisa booked an appointment to meet with Dr. Majezik for getting approved for BiPAP because she was showing sign of difficulty breathing, discoloration. They make a big shit show, not understanding why mom is so upset. She doesn't need that respiratory piece of equipment yet. Come back from Falaire, north of Alberta, 4.5 hours away from Children's Stollery Hospital. There she went. She go back home. My daughter crashed in McLennan Hospital around 30 hours later for respiratory distress. Impressive, eh? And through the year, 15 years mistake like that happened. I'm going to give you another one. That was also in the ice room. And at the time, she needed to have a G tube in her nose for her feeding. Then they needed to push a tube through her nose, go down her stomach. And that on some children create a vagal response when they pass from the nose to the throat and going down to the stomach is basically a gagging reflex on any kind of normal human being. A gagging reflex called a vagal response will create a small drop of heart rate and blood pressure. It's pretty much everybody do that, but Anna don't have the ability to fight that. When that start is going down, and I was noticing everything was happening on the stat monitor, heart rate bouncing back and forth, and heart rate bouncing back and forth and back and forth. I asked to give them a break. They refuse. Guess what? My daughter enrolled in the code, enrolled to PICU again, and they redo the process with the emergency doctor at the time named Dr. Conradi. Very, very good emergency doctor. They redo the process. They make a plan, give her some medication to increase her heart rate a little bit, and they start the reinsertion of the G tube in her nose under the direction of Dr. Conradi. And I was standing right beside him at that point. That, I believe, was between October 2008 and November 2008, at the end of November. It was before she get trach. We repeat the operation. Dr. Conradi started noticing exactly the same thing that I was. Her heart rate started bouncing back and forth. The doctor asked politely give her a break. That doctor had to call the break 3 times, and he had. I can understand why the parents are upset. And on and on and on like this for 15 years. More recent one, Mother's Day. My daughter had been left at the Children's Stollery Hospital on 10 liters of oxygen between 2 o'clock in the morning to almost noon. Nobody have called us. Lisa walk inside the room, ask her what is going on, said we don't know, we cannot get control over respiratory. Inside a half an hour, she was back on less than 1 liter of oxygen, and by the end of the visit, she was back in room air. That is the professional we talk about. Let's see what's going to happen in the future. It's full of COVID, it's full of influenza in there, and they're going to receive a child who will be a lot more safer at home than inside that facility right now. And everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. And I bet you the director of social services is going to get wind of those kind of video. Sit back and do not care whatsoever. Then I'm going to give that back to Lisa here. Oh, she has her mouth full. But seriously, guys, we are not the only one like that. We are not the only one like this, but people have a life, have a job, have a quality of life who they don't want to lose. And if they talk about it too much, same thing to us will happen. Because the justice system do not want to face those institutions. Specifically when child protection director, in my opinion, probably got some envelope. He must have a reason behind all this. Then the director himself, it's corrupt. Then if he cannot overlook what his little puppet is doing for him or her, whatever, then there is Lisa.
All right, guys, so we're going to try to start. I don't know why, like, it went into the small little thing on, went into a small circle on the corner of my screen. So we're going to start ending it. Hit like, hit subscribe. This is just a few minor details. It's not even the mentality of what they put us through, what they've been doing to us. It's unbelievable. Families we've met in the past who the hospital themselves have said, oh, those parents don't want to talk to you, meaning us. And then we get these parents coming up, tapping our shoulder, saying that, they know that we don't want to be bothered or whatever, but we are told they don't want to be bothered. Do you see how this works? The amount of disgust. And this is supposed to be in the best interest of a child's life. This is supposed to be one of the best hospitals within our province or our country, and it's diminishing. It's degrading, in my opinion. It's unbelievable that this is even happening to families. I don't even know what to say from this point forward, that they're even willing to go as far to put the risk to let my child die by putting her at risk and harm.
They will, to cover up their fuck up.
And exactly, and this is what Hugo and I were talking about on the bus on the way back when we realized that this next worker, they decided to pull off my file. We both said that they're going to push to have my child pretty much die. And that's what's happening right now.
They definitely gonna live our daughter die other than talk the truth.
And push us even further into, they keep pushing my family. Badly and badly and badly. And this is my daughter's life. 15 years we devoted our lives to her. I've devoted everything. I've given up everything for my child. To be heard as a medical parent. And it's coming down to this, everything I have fought for that little girl. For families like us.
And if you guys look on Lisa's Facebook, you have a RT named Amanda, who have taken care of Anna for many years, and she knows exactly what we talk about.
For her, I do have respect for her. Hugo has a thing because of his peak valve issue. But in all honesty, at the end of the day, when it comes to our child, I don't think any of you guys, any of the RTs, doctors, or anybody realizes the amount of damages it's caused my family. You all go and bring the abuse card forward to your union. I don't have a union. And I'm scared for my daughter's life. And there's not a goddamn thing I can do about it because there is no justice for families like us. For my daughter, for my son. And at the end of the day, I want all of you RNs, LPNs, and all you RTs who are so freaking book smart to take a look at that individual you take care of daily or talk about in the hallways we hear. You mock, complain that you guys are short-handed, but continue to make error after error that we as parents have been catching, and go and turn around and say they're evil, they're nasty, they're crazy. Because you made that error. And there are some really good nurses, some really good doctors out there, but there's a hell of a handful of a bunch that need to wake up or be woken up at this point. Because one day, each of you that has your practice or goes and runs a long-term care or anything like that, and that are young and pretty and long, beautiful hair and makeup and weddings and all that kind of fun stuff we all need image for, are going to get old too one day. You're going to end up with canes. You're going to end up in wheelchair. And you are going to be the role model of what you left behind. And that care you have given and that book smart that you have from your books that I've been told in PICU. Well, I'm book smart. Great. Then give me my daughter's manual. Because I would like to know how many people's book smart saves a life when that individual comes in with a complex situation. And you're the one with the license at the end of the day for that person's life. Yet it's no big deal. But when you get old, is it going to be a big deal? When you get sick or your child gets sick?
And Amanda and Eric, when my daughter is going to be there, I'm going to be there as well.
The thing is, everybody's got a story. Let's beat the parents up. Does anybody understand what it was like to be called a hypochondriac when you're saying your son is sick? You're crazy. Autopsy reports come back, viral pneumonia. Let's let her suffer in pain with kidney stones when she needs more calcium and has a parathyroid issue. And yeah, things that we get to learn about. And if we didn't have science, if we didn't have medical, we wouldn't have the knowledge today. But we're willing to take my daughter and put her life at
And for Lyle McGanago, Caleb was his anabolic nervous system? I just wonder.
Any reason why Hugo says that is because we had been saying for a long time she was having a lot of problems with her urine, which is causing kidney stones and all this stuff. And he kept denying urologist, which is what she needed. And when she got one, a lot of problems got resolved. But it was autonomic nervous system, because when they don't know what to do or what to think, that's what they do. So from here on, guys, I'm trying to, try to figure out, start shutting this down. Thing is that when you don't have the medical knowledge and you sit beside your family member, you think they're doing everything okay for your family member. Oh, that's all good. Oh, they're in a facility. They're being looked after. Have they been dropped, hit, yelled at, pointed at? Oh, liar, you lie, or things like that in their faces, mocked in the hallway where they can hear that stuff. Because my daughter's got great hearing. And she's been pretty emotionally hurt by the things that's been said around her from the facility she's in. But I can't prove all that all the time. The only thing that I'm going to be able to do is say, look, I put this video here. What's the date? January 22nd? They're taking my child January 29th.
Wow, the facility closed.
Yeah, the facility closes on the 29th there anyways. And taking my child and putting her at massive high risk as of January 29th. They've known since June. And now they're willing to let my child be put at such harm's risk that they're willing to let her die.
And just to be clear, they will use the fact we have refuse meeting. Yes, we have refuse meeting. And the thing is, the reason why we refuse those meetings is because we need to talk about what's happened to Anna since they take custody of her, to make sure those meetings will not happen, and to make sure
those errors will not happen. Yeah.
Those errors will not happen, and the medical professional who have done those errors
presented in court
on voluntarily rushing and stuff like that to need to be exposed. It's exactly what they don't want.
So now they're shutting down the one person that has seen what we've been saying, that's been bringing it up. Their own worker, they're willing to toss out an innocent worker. Actually, I've watched a few of it happen. Anyways, guys, if people stopped going on their phones as much and started listening, they would start seeing how bad the corruption is. Start looking at why is there so many people homeless? Why are so many families flawed? Why is there so many divorce rates? Why is everything on the rise? Don't know. And paperwork looks good.
And why the LPN who's working for private care company under a contract with Alberta Healthcare, lots of them face massive intimidation, and they don't want to talk about it because they work under an LMO, a work permit, coming from other country, and they all scared
To be deported.
to be deported. And most of them work under permanent residency. And they say, Hugo, we don't want to talk because I'm working on my permanent residency. They use that as a leverage to shut them all down when they want to complain.
Oh, and the $1,200 bonus?
Yeah, no, not the bonus, the compensation from, sorry guys, the compensation for working under COVID. Many nurses who's going to listen now know exactly what I talk about. They give a $1,200 compensation to work under the circumstances of COVID-19, heavy stress, exposure, and things like that. A lot of those nurses who come from other country has not received them. Or when I have talked about it, then I mention it, and a lot of them has not received it yet. Few of them have received that $1,200 after I have talked. But room for thought. Under the public record, somebody can find me how many $1,200 have been claimed for nurses working under the circumstances of COVID versus the amount has been paid. This thing means you have some private company out there who have filled up their bank account with compensation who was supposed to be for nurses, and they have pocketed a fair amount of it. That is a true fact.
So, guys, like I said, we could go on and on and on. I worked in long-term care services. I worked for private facilities. I worked for ParaMed company. Actually, ParaMed was one of the better home care facilities that I actually seen out there that they actually shut down. And the more corrupted ones are succeeding. Because I can tell you, I've worked for a couple. I've had some go through my home, and I can tell you that the most corruptive ones are succeeding. So anyways, from there, because otherwise Hugo will have another story.
Never-ending story.
It doesn't end. It doesn't end. And my points of views from long-term care, from the way residents to workers, immigrants of workers have been treated, and so forth. The corruption is a big cycle, and people are afraid to step up and say anything. And I can totally validate that. Coming from the private facility I worked at, my first supervisor was released from her position after realizing what I was stating was true facts, and she was basically told she was gag ordered to talk about what was happening at Manoir de Lac. And so then we got this new supervisor after her named Helen, who told me that they were going to vote out the union we had brought in because they were going to bring in immigrants because the immigrants would do what they were told. That's what she had told me. She didn't know that my mom, who was working there, the immigrant that had that accent, she didn't know that that was my mom, by the way. Funny how that works. My mom was working at the same facility, and when she realized, she put two and two together, she was already in hot water over the fact. But that is how it's run.
And she made me think about another story. We have a nurse who have complained to us. She have said she was not available for work. And the coordinator at the time for caregiver, that's the name of the company who supply the nurse for my daughter under home care, who is managed by Alberta Healthcare. The nurse said she was not available sometime for work, and the supervisor, the coordinator, keep calling and keep calling and keep calling. And she said, look, I have told you I am not available today. Stop calling me. And she said, I'm going to call you as many times than I want. Harassment right there. And that is a very common practice. It's been done by that company. And it's the same company who the nurse have complained to, they was not receiving the whole entire $1,200 compensation from COVID. And it's also the same company who have told a nurse who was working in my home, so if she's not happy, she can be deported with handcuffs.
She started as an HCA when she came to
Yeah,
Canada.
and she can be deported back to Philippines in handcuff. Then when I expose all this, they keep everything quiet. They give her a supervision position. And now they just opened another office in Calgary.
That they're going to let her manage.
So she will be one of the managers out there. Quite interesting, eh? Her name is Jenny, by the way. Have a good day.
All right, guys, hit like, hit subscribe, keep your eyes open. Because you know what? Too many people shove their faces in the cell phone and not realizing what's actually happening in our society. What's happening to our elders, what's happening to our children, what's happening to families, the diversity our governments are creating, the lack of work. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. The paperwork looks good. But let me ask you to go downtown and tell me, is the results of the paperwork good? No. Let's look at the files of medical foster care and really start siphoning and deciphering and going through the facts and speaking to families and tell me if it's good. Oh, Hugo's got one more thing, guys.
One more thing.
Oh,
I just wonder, I have a discussion with Misa Mizolo, I believe, Sherwood Park Social Services, who is on charge of my two daughters, Anna Lowen Duchesne and Hope Duchesne. She told me she will like to do more, but unfortunately the decision is out of her hand. But I will like to talk to the person who actually take decision here. Just saying. Can come for coffee.
all right, guys. Like, subscribe. I know it's almost like what just happened here. Like, what was this video about? It's what our life is like. It's surreal. But the reality is it does happen. Take a look at Take Care of Maya, Netflix. Hit like, hit subscribe. Even watch Extraordinary Measures to understand medical families a little bit more. Extraordinary Measures. All right, guys. Have a good night. Talk to you all later.